Maybe. My daughter is coughing her brains out in the other rooms. Close my door.
Oh,
Share my screen. So Charlotte, we just talked about in this, not that we're going to finish out the entire document, but we are going to go start to finish using the template, bringing all the content in, formatting it the way that we want it, adding form fields and adjusting those form fields. And then we'll talk about what I would do when I go to export it to make sure that everything that we did to make it accessible comes along with it. There's another, this is centered on fillable forms, which is really a huge reason to use InDesign. My reality is I use InDesign for every document creation whenever possible. I avoid Word like crazy, but so everything that we talk about here, the non-form version of it is an easier version because you're not adding all these extra things in there. So it should translate one way or the other. So I have InDesign open. As Stacy just found out, I have the newest version, so it's InDesign CC 2025. That does matter because InDesign is backwards compatible, but not forwards compatible. So if you have a file that's made with the 2023 version, you can open it in the 2025 version. But if you have a file made in the 2025 version, you can't open it. It's not backwards compatible if you have an older version of InDesign. That is, Stacy, though, why that IDML file is included. Partially. There's a lot of uses for that IDML file. I use almost none of them, but it is a backwards compatible file. You could open that in 2024 and work off of that.
okay.
So I sent Stacy let's see, a package, an InDesign package. And an InDesign package includes, so I sent her the zip file. I have the unzipped folder on my in my folder structure too. We're going to work off of the unzipped, but if you were to get a zipped package from InDesign from me, all you would do is unzip it, open up that folder. Inside, you would see document fonts, links, two files titled the same thing. One of them is an InDesign markup document. That's that IDML file. One of them is an InDesign document. We are going to work off of the InDesign document. And then there is in the packages, it always includes a PDF preview of what that file is. So you can always open that up to see what the InDesign file is. In this case, it's a super simple file. The reason that there is a document images links folder, is that what it is? Why there's a links folder is because of the Sesta logo. So we talked about it previously, but InDesign, in order to make the files functional, InDesign doesn't embed images, it links to images. And the reason for that is as you're working on a file, InDesign assumes that you're potentially going to be making a 100, 200, 400 page document. And if it were to embed all of the images, the file would become non-functional because it would just get so big. So instead, InDesign links out to things, which is why as you're working, it's really important not to move your InDesign file and not to move any of the images or rename any of the images that you've included in that file, because it will break all the links. Their errors will show up, all kinds of things will give you warnings to tell you that you've done that, but it is worth noting because it's one of the biggest issues that people have with InDesign is they go, well, where did all my things go? And it's because they at some point went through and renamed everything or shifted their file structure, and that's what it is. This is the file that we are going to be remaking. These are note catchers from the high quality IEPs that a professor reached out and asked if we could make them fillable forms. So we are switching them to fillable forms. So I'm going to have this up. This is what I just emailed you. We're not going to be looking at this, but I'll be copying and pasting over from this. So when we're starting, you open up that folder, open up the InDesign document for the note catcher template. The first time you open it up, it's going to tell you likely that you don't have some document fonts installed. Specifically, Poppins is one that you'll have to activate through the Creative Cloud font licensing system. It's pretty seamless though when you have InDesign. Should make it pretty easy. I know that we're using Seago and Trebuchet for all of our things. The reason that I'm using Calibri and Poppins, one is I love Poppins, and so I use it for headings. Two, InDesign, because it's a set system, is not like Word where there's a chance that we're going to open it up in Google Drive and fonts get packaged along with that package. So whether someone's using a PC or a Mac, as long as they're working off of a package, they're going to have the same fonts. So that issue that we have with Word doesn't exist with InDesign, if things are made correctly. And then Calibri fits in with this document as it was used historically and the note catchers that we were using at this time. I told Stacy, I don't like using Calibri when I'm using Word because the kerning on it or the spacing in between individual letters is not good and it creates some issues. But in InDesign, we can turn on or turn off ligatures, which are those connecting bits that like connect the TI or the FI. So Calibri is a completely non-problematic font to use when you're using something like InDesign. So this is the template. We've opened that up and we're just going to follow what it says. So it's document title is here. And then there's another space. InDesign uses frames. It's a layout program, so we can move these things wherever. And I've set paragraph styles. I've preset paragraph styles. This is similar to like setting heading styles in Word. So we have a heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4 paragraph style, a numbered list with spacing, and then a cell header because one of these note catchers had some tables in there that we had to deal with. So in InDesign, just like in Word, you set all your styles. And then if we want to apply that style, we just select the text that we want to apply it to. Maybe did I just freeze up? And then we would say H1 or whatever else. I purposely set, so in InDesign, you can do what are called paragraph rules and paragraph shading, similar to when you add shading in Word behind, which we do all the time for our note catchers and for our quick guides where we add coloring behind some wording. In the H1 style, Stacy has seen this menu. This is why people run away from InDesign because there are literally 4,000 options for every single thing. It's really overwhelming, but the reality is we only use a few of them most often. So on this, in the paragraph shading, I added a color at a 10% tint, and then I offset it so that it's a little bit larger than our text on the top, bottom, and reduced the sizing on the edges so that we get what we have here, which is that kind of light blue behind there. The nice part about InDesign is if we were to want to change that, all we would need to do is double click on our heading style again. So say, for example, the next set of, like Stacy, the note catchers that you're using, that light blue may not be what you want to use. So all you would do is open up that H1 style, go to paragraph shading, choose a different color. This goes back to Stacy, we talked about briefly. I've added a swatch to it. So I have a swatch called text. So in this case, actually all we would need to do, we wouldn't even need to go into the shading, although we could. But we could also come to our swatches, double click on this, and change the values of the swatch. And because the paragraph style is referencing this swatch, it'll automatically change anywhere in the document where we've used that swatch color.
Okay.
but we don't need to do that for right now. So document title we've got, and then it's telling us to paste document content and then use paragraph styles to define headings and add threaded text frames as necessary to fit your layout needs, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I'm just going to jump over to my bit for this. And paste that in. Oops. This is a much longer title than we've had before, so it's going to cause a little bit of funniness, just in terms of how I've set up that the shading behind it, because I purposely reduced the area of the shading, so I can do a couple of things. I can either redefine my style, or this is in a box, and I built the shading to come in -4. It's called pica, Charlotte pica, are a unit of measure that is used in publication design quite often. So I can either go in and adjust the padding around here, or I can just increase the size of my text box until I get it to a spot that feels good to me. And that works fine to me. I did in the other documents have the word note catcher afterwards. I like to be consistent wherever we can, but because this one does not have enough room, I'm going to leave that word out of there. It'll be in the file name. So we'll just do that. And I may go back in the other ones and remove it just so that we're consistent. And then I'm just going to start copying and pasting things in. By default, it's going to copy in. Man, something's really slowing down my computer. By default, it's going to paste it in without any formatting, which is exactly how we want it. We don't want formatting pasted in. Okay, and this is a spot where instead of just selecting everything, well, okay, we'll just keep on going. We'll see if we can make it work. There's some funny things in there. Okay, Charlotte, this is an important bit, and Stacy, to remind you, right now we only have a single page, and we have more content than can fit on one page. So when I pasted it in, it only pasted in as much as could fit in this text box that I've built on here. But a little plus sign showed up over here. So this is something that I have not built into the template. There are 4 pages in the template, but I have not built the threaded text frames into the template. So we'll look at how we're going to contend with that. So when I click on this, that little plus sign becomes pretty apparent. All I need to do is click on the plus sign. If you hold down spacebar at any point, no matter what tool you have selected, it's going to change to a hand, which allows you to move your screen around. Then when you let go of the spacebar, it comes back to whatever tool you had. So you can see on my cursor that I have things connected to it. I'm just going to click here. And what that does is it takes and threads the content on this from this text box on page 1 into the content on the text box on page 2. You can also, I didn't do it, but you could, if you wanted to, make your own box. I just clicked in there because it's going to automatically fill the margins of that paper. But you could make your own text box and then same thing, click, and then click in that text box, and it's going to drop all of that content into the text box. If you're ever not sure where your threads are, you can go to View, Extras, Show Text Threads, and then when I click on it, it's going to show me that my text is threaded from my heading 1 into the rest of my content and keeps on going in there. Level of sport. And again, we talked about it before, Stacy, but this is really the reason why it's really important when you're developing a fillable form that you have somebody or you go through and fill out the form so that we have an idea of how much space we need. That really is the biggest issue that I run into, is that I have to make guesses about that, and I'm great at guessing about it. So same thing happened here. We ran out of space, so I'm just going to hit that plus sign and bring it over there. Our pages are in a funny spot. So if we come up to properties, we've got properties, CC libraries, and pages. Pages are right here too. I like to get to them through that. And then if we bring up our pages, we can see that preview of where our pages are. Okay, that is all the content. I'm going to keep this file up so that I've got an idea of layout and what our headings need to be. On this template, like I said before, I have set all of the paragraph styles. So we don't need to do any of that, although you can adjust paragraph styles like we talked about if you need to based on your document. So once we've copied everything in, then what we're going to do is set our headings. So I'm going to come through, hit paragraph styles. This one is a heading level 2. The shortcut for that is Command and Enter on a Mac or Control and Enter on a PC. Let's see. Think about time we use. This one is funny too. So this is bold, but this is not a heading. This is just, they're just bringing emphasis to that space. We don't have a paragraph style set for that yet. And really a paragraph style is not appropriate because that is it's a change in the typeface style. We're going from a regular typeface to a bold typeface. There's nothing that we need to define in terms of its heading level. So instead of adding another paragraph style for this bold text, what we're going to do is add a character style. So we've got paragraph styles, we've got character styles, we've got object styles, which we talked about we use for the form fields. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, think about a time. Select all of this text, which needs to be bold. Go into character styles, click somewhere so that that none becomes unselected, and hit my plus sign. And then double click where it says character style 1. I'm just going to name it bold text. Under basic character formats, the nice thing about a character style versus a paragraph style, in a paragraph style, we have to define everything. We have to define the font family, the style, the size, all of those things. But in a character style, all we're defining is what are the stylistic specifics for that character that you want. So all we need to do is say bold. Maybe. Well, there's too many styles without putting the font family in. So we'll put the font family in, which is Calibri. And then it's going to narrow down our options. So we'll hit bold on there. We could then remove Calibri if we wanted. Ligatures is the only one that I want to make sure does not exist anywhere. I want that gone, because what that does is it allows for that combination of the TI, FI. That's all I need to do on here. I'm going to hit OK. And you can see that it has now bolded that. So we have a paragraph style on there of basic paragraph with a sub character style of bold text. I did add one other character style, which is a dropped tracking, which reduces the kerning across the entirety of a paragraph. So that's great for, like, if we've got things like this where there are 3 desk chairs and then we have during class is the only thing that goes onto that next line, we can hit dropped tracking, and sometimes depending on how much goes on to the next line, it'll bring that up onto it'll get rid of that, whatever we call those, hanging something or others. Okay, let's go back over to this. Right now, I'm not worrying about these underlines. I'm not worrying about anything else. All I'm worrying about are where are my headings, and then I will, and then we'll go through and adjust some of those other things. So quality versus equity. Again, you can either go to paragraph styles, hit H2, or you can just select it, hit Control Enter, and hit H2 from there. And then this is genuinely a heading level 3. Is it equality, or is it equity, or is it equality? Because it's a subsection of the heading equality versus equity. And I did not copy that in, so all I need to do is I am making some choices as we go through, just based on things like currently in the note catcher, equity and equality are capitalized. And there's really no grammatical reason for those to be capitalized. So it's a visual choice that somebody made, but I'm redoing it. So I'm not going to put that in. This has formatting that is different. So again, when we go back through, right now we're just dealing with headings, but when we go back through, we'll address that formatting. Okay, accommodations is the next one. And feel free to shout out if you have questions as we're going. Name types. This is just from a best practice perspective, this is incorrect. Video gaining independence with AIM and AT, and then a long URL. There are reasons on a note catcher to have that URL, because it's possible that someone's going to print the note catcher. So it is important that we have the URL in there, but we're going to incorporate it in a different way where it's not going to show up in our tags. So we'll deal with that after a little bit. Adaptations is the next. Oops. Control Z, Control Z. I did skip over that in our first meeting, Charlotte, but undo is Command Z or Control Z.
Okay, just kind of like it is on the Apple.
The big difference is on, well, the addition to that is as long as you do a save as, and I didn't do that, but that is the other very first thing that you should do when you open up the note catcher template is do a save as. Find your folder wherever it's going to go. As long as you do a save as in the beginning, your history panel will also work, which is window history. Right now, since I just saved, it goes from wherever you saved onwards. So you can either hit Control Z, or if there's something like 10 steps back that you need to go to, you open up your history panel and you can just click 10 steps back on your. Okay, adaptations is heading 2. Sways is heading 3. And important to note that you can select the whole thing, but you can also, as long as you're in between hard returns, you can just click somewhere in there and then hit heading 3. And as long as it's within that space, it's going to apply it to the whole paragraph. So that's 9 ways to provide accommodations. Really, oh yeah, and then it goes in through here. I made a choice too when I redid these. This felt distracting to me to have this up in the header because it feels like part of the document right there. So I moved it to the footer in my document. Determining accommodations as a heading 2. This is a space too where we have begin with the eligibility report. What are 2 questions? I think that's a good spot to bring that onto a next level, and begin with the eligibility report can be a heading level 3. That should be a link probably to the cognitive functioning and psychological processing guidance document. Don't we have that as a guidance document somewhere?
Yeah, yeah, we do. Do you want me to send you a link?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Robert?
Well, it is embedded in the document, or it's embedded in the module.
Oh, okay.
So we're okay. We won't turn that into a link because it's asking the person to go back to the module and make those changes. Two accommodations, one instructional method. That's all good. Communicating accommodations and adaptations. So here's another spot. They italicized this. We don't have a style for italics. So same as we did before. We'll select all that text, go to character styles, click somewhere to deselect none, hit plus. Change that to italics. Libri. Italic. No ligatures. And hit OK. Okay, so we're done adding our heading styles. Now we're going to go back up and start dealing with our formatting. Formatting includes adding in our form fields. Like we talked about before, Stacy, these underlines are useless. So we are going to get rid of those. But I am going to use the underlines to set a custom tab stop. So before I get rid of the underline, I'm going to go up to type. So I just set my cursor right after could. I'm going to go up to type and go to tabs, which is going to bring out my tab stop space. And I'm going to set a custom tab that just goes from could to the end of the underline. Then I will delete all of that, add a space in, and then hit tab. And that gives us, actually I'm going to hit tab and then add a space in. The reason for that is, Charlotte, we're going to anchor our form fields to the end of the word could. So it's 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. You can anchor it to the end of the word could. You can anchor it to the end of the extra space after could. Either way works. I can't remember what I've been doing. Let's do space and then tab. So that one's good. This one, think about a time. Okay, so we're going to adjust this a little bit. I know we made that style, but I'm going to remove the bold text style off of this. And we're going to add a subheading saying, because that really is, I mean, it could be a heading level. So we'll add that. And then we've got this funny thing. So we need more space after what was the tool or support you used. We could do that by using our paragraph tools and adding space after it, but it's going to create some custom things that sometimes cause issues when we export them. So instead, what I'm going to do is reduce the size of our text box. I'm going to click on this text box. We've got our handles down at the bottom because this text box takes up the entire page. We're going to reduce it. That's going to continue to flow. So anytime I reduce it here, it's going to flow onto that next page. But what we're going to use that for, okay, we are going to add this -10 to this just to try to get understanding up on the next line, on the previous line. Let's see, character styles, -10 tracking. So I'm just going to bring it to right after what was the tool or support you used. The next thing is a really important bit. So we can have this be larger or a little bit smaller. But I base a lot of my personal layout rules on the bottoms of these frames. So it's important to me that the frame is exactly the same size as the text that it's supporting. If you didn't have a threaded text frame over and you fit the content to the frame, fit the frame to the content, it would expand to try to get everything in there. But since we're threading onto this next page, I can right click, go to fitting, and hit fit frame to content or Control Alt C. And it's just going to bring the base of that frame up so that it hugs the text in there. Now I need to go through and add another text box and adjust my threading, because right now the threading is going on to the next page, but I want the threading to go into this next box. So I just clicked that little, in this case, it's not a plus sign, it's a little blue arrow. I just clicked that and then clicked in my next text box. I'm going to bring this up too, because we want some space for that. What barriers did it remove for you? And before I add a next text box in and continue to flow that text, I'm going to add in some boxes which we will use to define how much space we need for our fields here. Again, this is a part where it would be really nice if I had dummy text in here. I don't. So I'm just going to make an assumption that these each need 3 lines of text to go along with them. And then if I hear otherwise, I'll change that later. I know from previous testing that 3 lines of text is a box that is 5p 4.4 high. You can translate that into inches if you all are using inches instead. So all I'm going to do is create a small box. Keeps on wanting to default to this anchored text frame style, which I don't want it to do. Okay, that one's got no style. I'm going to go to my properties. In the height, I'm going to put in 5p 4.4, which gives me the height that I need. And then, again, I just have rules for myself. So my rule for myself is after a text box, before a form field, I press my down arrow 3 times. That just gives it a space that I like. That's not based on any best practices or anything. It's just what I like. And it gives me rules that I can remember. I also like to add a color to my form field boxes. This is completely unnecessary and won't stay. It just helps me to be able to quickly see where I've added text boxes. So I know that's the right size. So now I can either Control-C, Control-V to copy and paste it, or I can just hold down the Alt key, or if you're on a Mac, the Option key, and duplicate that down. 1, 2, 3. Now we do need to continue our text. And give me my cursor back. And 1, 2, 3 for me. And then I'm going to flow this text into that by just clicking on that little arrow and continuing that on. This is another one. We just have no question mark. So I'm going to try to get that up onto the next line. Using my -10 tracking, which did it. And bring it really slow. Same thing, move that thread. So this is a spot. We've got to add in these ones. So again, we're going to set our cursor, go up to type. Hit tabs. Delete that and hit my tab. Then come over here and do the same thing. I have some extra tab spaces. I'm just deleting those. We've got space for those. This is not appropriate, the resource where we've got it written out. So we are going to maybe. Like I said before, I am going to leave that written out link in there, but when I turn it into a PDF, I'm gonna artifact that so that it doesn't actually get read out by assistive technology.
I think you need one extra T in institute.
You're right.
Institute.
Institute. Thank you.
Yeah.
Aha. However, I think this is a broken website. Maybe. No. There's no www in it though. And it is super slow. It's a terrible website. Well, I mean, this is worth looking at in terms of knowing what I look for. So this website has poor contrast.
Mhm.
It has a number of issues where there's keyboard focus is not available. It has continually playing content, which represents a failure for WCAG. There's a lot of things that are problematic about this website. So I'm going to remove it. And then I'll just tell Bree that that is not something we're going to include in that thing. Okay, this was the space where we need to adjust our layout. So again, we're gonna and I'm kind of feeling like we're starting to get a little bit squunched here. So what we're gonna do instead is give some extra space for these form fields. Let's give them 7 lines each, 10p 6.5. And then we'll adjust things on here. I'm just putting placeholders in there like we talked about before, since we have a character or a object style set for our inline boxes. We don't really have to worry about whether those are the right size or in the right spot. But
Okay.
this we do need to adjust. So here is where InDesign really shines, because we can take make I just made them whatever size, and then we'll adjust them so that they fit. InDesign also is going to tell you, you can see these little guides show up.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll tell you when things are spaced perfectly, or you can always select them all and then use in the properties menu your spacing tools. So in here, I want to align it to the margins, and I want to distribute the horizontal space, and then it'll space them perfectly. So then I'm going to go flow the text from here into here. From here into here. And from here into here.
Wow.
And I think we're going to make these a little bit smaller. And we'll add some things around them just to, let's see, space that out again. So we'll add some extra, as I'm going through, I'll add I'm just going to add some frames to these.
Okay.
Make these a little bit shorter. And then I'm going to round the corners a little bit on them. Copy them over to these other two. When I have two objects, so I've got these two objects, I've spaced out their containers. Although the containers need to be a little bit shallower. So let's see. So again, spacing tools, I'm going to space out the containers. When you have more than one object selected, so I have those 3 boxes selected right now, I can click on the left box, which gives it a what looks like a stronger selection. That makes that a key object. So now anything that I align is aligning directly off of that object. So I've got those 3 selected. Now if I hit align top edges, it's going to align everything to the top edge of that object. So same thing I'll do here. I want that text aligned with that box. See if we can get that up on the single line. Okay, so what that looks like now is that.
Okay.
And then all that we need is enough space for is it equality or is it equity? So we'll just have little spaces in there for all of that.
Okay.
And then we keep on going.
The text boxes or the rectangles that you made to be the outline of those boxes, I must have missed it, but how did you define that it would show up as a border? Or
I
does-
gave it a stroke. That's a good question. I think I just blew right past that. So I
Okay.
took my shape tool, made a shape, and you're absolutely right that normally that shape won't show up at all because it has no fill and no stroke, which we can see over here. See how that top box right here has no symbol going through it. And then the
Gotcha.
back where there's a square with the square knocked out of it has nothing in there too. So the top one is the fill, the bottom one is the stroke. And all I did is I hit D for default, which changes it to the default colors, which is no fill and a black stroke.
Okay.
But you can also just double click on there, choose whatever color you want for that stroke. Or you can do it over here with your swatches.
Okay. Thank you.
These objects live in kind of a weird space because we don't want them to show up in our final document. So they're not a problem at all as long as we don't anchor them to anything. As soon as you anchor them, then it becomes part of the document structure and it's going to show up as a shape in your tags, which we don't. So then we're going to keep on going. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it is time for me to restart. This is painfully slow. And then again, I just click that lower right guy, move that into that space. Okay, at this point, it's essentially the same thing. I'm just going through adding in boxes where I need boxes, adjusting spacing where I need spacing. The biggest thing that I wanted you to see were those adjustments where we can make those individual text boxes. You can move anything wherever you want to move it. There's really a lot of freedom with that. So we're gonna fast forward ahead, pretend that we have everything set out, and look at the last couple of things that we need to do. So let's see. This guy. In this one, I added in underlines for all of the boxes. I added in strokes for all of the large boxes. Those will, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, when we output it as a PDF, we'll see those blue boxes in there too, but you can turn that off as a default. So I like to add in little things in case people are printing them out or in case they have that setting turned off. So once we have everything in there, the next thing we need to do is set our articles, which is window articles, or I have that up. I'm going to delete this just so you can see. By default, nothing is in there. Articles is a weird thing. It gets overlooked all the time, but it's incredibly important for accessibility. Many designers I know that use InDesign and have used InDesign for decades don't even know this panel exists, because outside of accessibility, there's really no reason that you would ever use this panel. So what this panel does is you drag your content into it, and any content that is in the articles panel will be tagged, and the order will be maintained as long as we set that when it goes into a PDF, which is really important because we want all those tags to come over, all that work that we did setting heading styles. We want it to all be in the right order, and the articles panel is what does that.
Okay.
When you're working on a document, you only need to bring in one frame of any threaded things that you have in there. So in our case, every single frame that we have in this document is threaded, and all of the form fields are anchored. So if we bring in building strong annual goals, and I've just clicked on building strong annual goals and I dragged it in, it's going to say new article. What do you want to call it? I generally just call it content, or I'll call them page 1, page 2, page 3. If I have non-threaded content, I'll separate those things out. In our case, all 4 pages are threaded from one space to the other. So the only thing we need to do is that. And in fact, if we try to bring in developing annual goals, it's going to tell us it's already there.
Okay.
There are some documents that I build with multiple threaded elements. There's reasons to do that every now and again. But for these, it's really just a single threaded thing. And as long as everything's connected, it'll all come in there. The key part here is that all of these underlines are not connected to anything, because I don't want those to be tagged. I don't want those to show up. I just want those to be artifacted because they're decorative objects. We don't want them to show up anywhere. So anything like the frames, underlines, all of that, we don't anchor it. And I actually set it on a separate layer. So you can see in this document, when I open up my layers panel, which is right here, I have a content layer and I have a design layer. And if I click the eyeball on the design layer, all of my underlines will disappear.
Okay.
Because all of my underlines are set on that layer by design, so that I don't accidentally include them in the articles when I bring them over.
Okay.
So we've set our articles. Because everything's threaded, the entirety of our document is in here. Now we're going to click the pancake menu on the articles, and it's really important that we check use for tagging order and tagged PDF. That is not checked by default, and it's an important thing. The next thing that I have to do is double check that I set my document title. I know that I did not for this. So I'll go to File, Document Setup, Nope, not in there. Cancel, reverse, file, file info. And in the document title, I'm going to say building string tools catcher and hit OK. Now this document should be 100% ready to go to turn it into a PDF, and we'll see what we did wrong. The other thing I'm going to do is drag this logo to the design layer because I forgot to put it there. So to change layers, all you need to do, I clicked on that logo. There's a little red button right there or a blue button. That is just the color of the layer. It doesn't mean anything except for each layer has its own unique color. So all I need to do is drag that down, and now that's on my design layer too. So should be good to go. I'm going to go to File, Export, or Control E. And here's where it's important that I check a couple of things. I'm just going to do this on my desktop since I still do have work to do on this. Really important that our Save As type is Adobe PDF Interactive. The other option is Adobe PDF Print. The difference is the interactive file, a lot of the images are downsized a little bit, acknowledging that its primary life is going to be online, so on screen. And it prioritizes accessibility. Now I'm going to hit Save, which is going to bring up another dialog box. Really important that Use Structure for Tab Order is selected. Really important that Create Tagged PDF is selected. Those are by default. You shouldn't ever have to select them. They should just be there by default. And then if I go to Advanced, really important that my document title is my display, and really important that English is on there.
Okay.
That is the default again. I switch back and forth. There are some documents that I make that are Spanish. So in that case, it's important that I make sure that Spanish is selected for the document. There are some documents that have a combination of English and Spanish. Those ones I set individual paragraph languages and then set the overall primary language in this space.
Okay.
Then I'm going to hit Export. It's going to tell me it's using CMYK. That's fine. That is a print characteristic. It's not something we need to worry about at this point. We'll hit OK. It's going to generate our PDF. And there we go. We are good to go. And if we did our job right, when we check for accessibility, oh, there are two issues under condition and under benchmark. And I bet that those are form fields that I forgot to anchor.
Okay.
So let's see. We'll come back in InDesign. And sure enough, you can see, because that's got a blue, it should have that anchor symbol.
Oh, okay.
So sure enough, I forgot to anchor that, and I forgot to anchor benchmark. The field descriptions, I have not gone through this entire document and added all my field descriptions, so that doesn't surprise me that those are failing right now. But that's just a matter of under student need, field 1 and field 2. Going to our buttons. And you can see right there, I have nothing in the description. I'm going to add a dummy description right now, just so you can see. So I've fixed everything that it said was problematic on there. Let's try again. So we'll file, export. That's fine. Again, create tag PDF, use structure for tab order, document title in English, hit export. Okay. Now let's see if we did it. Prepare for accessibility, check. Start checking. Oh, weird. Under condition, that did some odd things. I think I probably anchored that to the wrong spot. Just to make sure I'm not anchoring it to the underline, I'm gonna lock that.
Holy cow, there's so much.
Yeah, there's a lot. Ugh, still not there. What is the problem? Let's see if that did it. Time's a charm. Maybe, fingers crossed. I will usually do things a few times, and then if it's still not working, I'll delete that form field and start over on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's doing weird things.
Yeah.
It's just not acting the way it should, so I'll delete it. Copy one that is working. Okay, that should
Oh,
have fixed it. No. Which form field is that? P2 inline one. I think that's a different, there's some other form field that Wonder if there's a hidden form field somewhere. Yeah, there are some other odd issues going on this one. Which are a made not, this is not a fully finished file. Normally this would not be this problematic. Okay, well, I'm gonna look through this on my own so that you don't have to run through the all of that silliness. There may be there's some odd things that happen with reading order, which we can go over if they show up on your document.
Okay,
And some odd other errors that will show up sometimes, but for the most part, once you get it to that spot where everything's anchored and you've dragged everything into your articles panel, you should be good to go.
okay.
And you export it out. But
Yeah,
sometimes
okay.
it
I need to
requires.
just play with it and